guys let us know when you're ready. All right. Thank you for everyone for being here today. My name is Robert Fromer, spelled Frommer, and I'm a senior attorney at the Institute for Justice. The Institute for Justice is a public interest nonprofit law firm that has fought for people's constitutional rights for over 30 years. And in fact, we sued the city of Norfolk when it violated Central Radio's First Amendment rights, and we won that case going all the way up to the Supreme Court. We litigated in a number of areas: free speech, as I mentioned, economic liberty, educational choice, and what brings us here today, the right of private property. And no one can enjoy private property. No one can really benefit from private property without feeling secure in that property, being able to enjoy it without fear of being stalked or tracked. And in fact, that's such an important principle of private property that the Federal Court of Appeals, for where we sit, including in Virginia, Maryland, and other states, ruled that Baltimore flying a single plane up in the sky 12 hours a day to look down at the populace and see what they were doing was an unconstitutional search. By contrast, what we have here in Norfolk is far more egregious and far more unconstitutional. So for more on that, let me turn it over to my colleague, Michael Soifer.
Good morning. As you've heard, my name is Michael Soifer. My last name is spelled S-O-Y-F-E-R. I'm an attorney at the Institute for Justice. Technology is making government surveillance easier, cheaper, and more comprehensive than ever before. Norfolk shows how. The police department partnered with a tech company called Flock Safety to blanket the city with 172 advanced automated license plate reader cameras. The cameras are everywhere, and you don't have to take my word for it. The chief of police has said it would be difficult to drive anywhere of any distance without running into a camera. And the city is planning to add dozens more to its dragnet. Unlike a police officer posted at an intersection, the cameras never blink, they never sleep, and they see and remember everything. Once they photograph a car, that picture is uploaded to a database, and Flock converts it into what it calls a vehicle fingerprint. That includes not just the license plate, but also the make and model of the car and other distinctive features, like a bumper sticker, for instance. Once the police have that, they can use the vehicle fingerprint to track the car's movements across the city for 30 days, no warrant needed. Up until a few decades ago, that type of tracking was so resource intensive that it was reserved for the most serious crimes and the most notorious criminals. Now, Norfolk has unleashed it on everyone who drives through the city. This problem is bigger than just Norfolk. Flock says it has cameras in over 5,000 communities across the country. It even lets its customers pull their data and track people across different jurisdictions. It brags that it has something like 1 billion license plate reads per month. Our clients are ordinary people who don't want to live their lives in a fishbowl, knowing that the government is always watching everything they do, everywhere they go. That's why they've partnered with the Institute for Justice to bring this lawsuit and restore the rights of people like them who drive through Norfolk every day. Thank you. With that, we'll take any questions. Yeah, we understand the Norfolk PD has good intentions. They want to reduce crime, they want to solve crimes and catch criminals. But our constitutional rights don't work like that. It's not a balancing test. We have these rights, and even if there are good intentions behind violating them, it doesn't matter. Absolutely. A search, it's A common everyday word, what's a search? It's investigative conduct. It's looking for something to discover something. And that's what the police are doing. They've put 172 cameras throughout the city to track people as they move around, so they have this database that they can use to solve crimes. Beyond that, the Supreme Court has said we have a reasonable expectation of privacy in our day-to-day movements. And it's upheld that in a number of cases now. And these cameras violate that expectation of privacy.
Can you explain the legal argument for your clients where they are not necessarily plaintiffs who have suffered injury or loss? Specifically, the argument is that there is a potential that their information could be accessed or violated, but they didn't. Nothing happened as the subproduct, the consequence of these cameras.
They did suffer an injury. They lost their Fourth Amendment rights. Our client, Lee, has multiple slot cameras just outside his neighborhood. They see him every time he leaves his neighborhood. If he goes one way, they can infer he's picking up his daughter from school. If he goes another way, they can infer that he's going to church or to the shooting range. Crystal drives through the downtown tunnel every day. She drives around Norfolk visiting friends and family. She is a home health care provider. She drives elderly patients around Norfolk, sometimes to sensitive locations, frankly, like doctor's offices. All of that is being captured on camera. All of that is being logged in a government database. And all of it is available for any police officer on the force to access at any time without a warrant.
The injunctive relief that you're asking for, so is it for the police department to, I see that you want photos and images deleted, right? But is it just the permanent stopping usage from the police department of block cameras? Do you want them to see, like, what is the ultimate relief that you're seeking?
Yes, that's correct. We're asking for an injunction that requires the police department to stop operating the cameras and to delete all of the data that they have collected to date.
I know you said it's a Supreme Court case you're talking about, but do you think people expect that they're in public and there might be cameras? Everybody's cell phone has a camera, so really an expectation of privacy day-to-day when you're out on the street.
There is an expectation of privacy in the whole of your movements. Random people have cameras. They might film something you do here or there. You might get caught on a security camera at the grocery store and then one across town at a parking garage. Those are all kind of separate pieces. What's happening here is a single system operated by the government, tracking people's movements systematically and connecting them in a database that any police officer can access at any time to go back in time and see where you were over the last 30 days. And that's different from just these isolated, public recordings on surveillance cameras or phones.
Would you be able to distinguish lawsuits that attach red light cameras, which have been become a little bit common in this area, that we've seen in the last year or so? Very, obviously a little bit different, but it still goes with the overarching theme of cameras see vehicles in cases where they may not necessarily expect them. What is the relief?
Of course, red light cameras are different. A red light camera only snaps a picture when you go through a red light. It doesn't snap a picture of every car that goes past. And at least as far as we know, the police aren't connecting all of the separate red light cameras in a single database that lets them track movements. They're not used to track movements, they're just used to enforce a traffic law at a single intersection. They take a picture if you pass the red light, they send you a ticket, and it's over.
There was a statement from Flock Safety on this lawsuit, and they said that they feel like they have case law that supports their use. I don't know if we know the whole thing, but there's a Fourth Amendment case law with well that makes sure that red light distributors not constitute a search for this. So I'm just hoping you can respond to that.
I don't think overwhelmingly is correct. Frankly, Virginia state judge suppressed evidence holding that the system was a dragnet. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court has actually also explained how license plate reader cameras can become a dragnet that violates people's Fourth Amendment rights. There are cases going the other way, but we think we're on the right side of this, and frankly, we think the Fourth Circuit's decision in Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle about Baltimore's aerial surveillance means that we have to win this case. Norfolk is trying to do from the ground what Baltimore was doing from the air, and it's, if anything, even more invasive. Because in Baltimore, all the city was capturing was single pixels, little blobs or blurred dots. Here, Norfolk is creating a vehicle fingerprint so that it can track people and store their movements in a government database. That violates the Fourth Amendment. I'm not aware of any specific cases involving Flock, other than I believe the Virginia court suppressed evidence in a criminal case because it held that the Flock cameras in Norfolk were a dragnet search in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
So next is there just a scheduling? So it's a
Yeah.
hearing that's scheduled. What's the next motion, I guess?
Nothing has been scheduled. We anticipate that the defendants will probably file a motion to dismiss, and that will be briefed. We are hopeful that we'll win that, and then the case will move on to discovery.
Is this something that's a trial situation or not?
We can't say at this point. We don't know if it could be resolved in a motion submitted to the court, or if it would have to go to trial.
Excuse me?
How many people are still involved?
We have 2 clients.
We have 2 clients, but this is on behalf of everyone in the city. We're trying. They both signed up because they don't want this for themselves or anyone else. All right. Well, okay.